All right, great. We can introduce each other. This is Beck Rumbul. She's the executive director of the Rust Foundation, the whole thing.
Hello, everyone. And this is Deb. Is this on?
Oh, yeah, we will share.
There we go. No.
Oh, we are on.
It just had difficulty with the button. And this is Deb, head of Python. Well, executive director of the Python Foundation. Thank you all for coming here. Oh my God, this is it's been a long conference week.
So we wanted to do this talk together because Python and Rust actually have a lot in common. Programming language, and then a whole massive tale of GIFs and other things from the internet in the form of packages or add-ons, or do you call them crates?
We've got crates.
And crates, yes. So, so from a security standpoint, we like in large strokes we have a lot in common, but then some of the details are a little different.
Every security journey is different, and we're kind of coming up at different times as well. Python has a few years on Rust.
That's true, which is not always a bonus from a security standpoint. So we're going to share like what we have done in our different communities, so that maybe that will help you as you think about how to work on security in your communities. The first thing, just to be super clear, Python is not a company. It's a nonprofit. It is, there's like 12 or 13 of us, and we host this thing for the entire community of volunteers who do not work for me or usually even do what I ask them to. So
Exactly the same in Rust as well.
Yes, yeah.
The foundation just holding trademark and doing all the paperwork and providing this
money
ecosystem.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're all about the money.
We could always use more if you want to talk about that later. So the most important thing on building security with a community-driven tech stack is building consensus. And so that means that, it's still open source, even though it's security and it's super important, and like maybe like the fate of the free world, or at least like really important infrastructure depends on it. We still need to like kind of like, hey, would you like to do this? We did get money solely for security work about a year ago, and the community was like kind of already on board like with the idea of it, just like no one in particular was like, I would like to do a lot of high stakes security work for free. Not surprising, right? And so I think a really key piece of bringing the community along with us hiring someone was that we hired someone from the community who was already very familiar with Python, kind of knew like what the community was about, and what they would be into, and kind of like where they like to have their conversations and those kinds of things.
So with the Rust Foundation, we also got money from Alpha Omega, who we love, to fund our security work. But our journey was quite different because, we're so much younger. We don't have a lot of kind of established practices in place. And we're still a pretty small community compared to Python. So actually, a lot of our community members were like, do we really need security? Because we all know each other. We trust each other. We're cool. And it's a really quite, adorable sentiment. But I think, an awful lot of our community weren't realizing just how big Rust was getting, how we were growing, and that, we really needed to kind of start paying attention to security in a way that, is beyond, I know this person, therefore I trust them. So that's been a really kind of key culture shift for us in moving our security journey forwards.
Yeah, and I think the community trust was super, super important, because this was someone who was going to be coming to different community members to ask them questions about their process, and to maybe ask them to change things about their process. And so it's one thing to just be like, oh, cool, you can just do that over there. Security work is not a thing that you can just add, like sprinkle on top separate. It is like embedded in your other work.
And you were really lucky because, as you said, you had someone ready and waiting in the community to kind of fill that role who people already knew.
Yes.
Whereas with Rust, again, relatively small community, relatively new, we actually had to kind of bring in someone from outside, which has its own challenges in terms of building trust.
Yeah. So once we brought that person on, we went the same way that we do everything, in public, transparent, so everybody can see. And then also pretty constant communication. So both Seth, who is our security developer in residence, and then Mike Fiedler, who's the PyPI security engineer, do a lot of talking to the community and blogging and having regular written updates on the work that they're doing, so that there's no like, oh my gosh, that's happening. Like it was like very important for us to do that. I've also encouraged like both Seth and Mike to go to events and participate in podcasts that our community pays close attention to, and encouraging collaboration with our peers at other projects like Rust, because I want the work that we do at Python to be useful not just to us, but for the whole open source ecosystem. And that's really important to us. Like, I think that all of our foundations are relatively small, and so any way that we can keep each other from having to duplicate work, I think, is a bonus. I encourage other folks to do that too. I'm sure there's stuff we haven't done yet that we would love to take other people's pages from. So yeah.
And yeah, obviously trying to get that security message into where your community is already talking. So not starting a new conversation just about security necessarily, but baking it into how you're kind of talking about developments and new tooling and features anyway. So kind of nudging it into the conversation where people are already having conversations about what they're excited about, rather than just saying, right, okay, we're going to do this new thing. As you say, kind of bolting on the security afterwards, a la, 1997. This is not working. We were really, really trying to embed security into conversations that were happening naturally and organically anyway.
Yeah, so there was a little bit of pushback in some places. Our first kind of foray into increasing security at Python was requiring two-factor authentication for our most downloaded projects. And we got some pushback because we just thought like, oh, maybe like 2 emails and you'll be like all ready to like figure out how to get a key. We even like offered to like mail keys to people and things like that. But that wasn't enough. So we took that as a learning opportunity to go slower and do a lot more legwork to make sure that we could handle the issues that came in. It turns out as soon as you set up two-factor authentication, someone loses the key and you have to answer, now they're like, no, I've had this terrible poodle password written on a sticky note on my computer forever, and you just changed that and now I can't get into my account. So that was a little bit of a learning curve. When we rolled out two-factor auth for the whole package index on January 1st this year, we probably sent 400,000 emails, not to the same person, published a bunch of blog posts, and had Mike appear on 2 different podcasts that people listen to on our space.
Yeah, I mean, for us, a lot of the listening that we had to do was kind of concerns and anxiety about, bringing new people into the project space. As soon as we were awarded the money from Alpha Omega a couple of years back, it was a case of, okay, we need to talk to the community. We actually involved the community in the hiring process. We were writing blogs about what this person was doing. We were consulting with the community on what that job description should look like, so that we were listening to them the whole way through, bringing them with us. So by the time that security engineer was recruited, it wasn't kind of just parachuting him in from on high. There was already kind of people that had been invested in the process. And one of the big problems that people were kind of bringing to us and saying, we're worried about this, is that this security engineer was going to sit in a kind of ivory tower somewhere and, pass down, decrees from on high that, didn't fit with how people worked or didn't fit the culture. So what we made sure as well, and we hired the right person because he was very invested in this as well, was actually placing him in project working groups so that he was there in the community doing the kind of democratic decision making, not as a kind of separate person over here that was just going to kind of be telling people what to do without being able to kind of listen to their anxieties.
Yeah, and so we have a strong community-wide culture of assuming the best, and I think really reminding people that we're all in it together. Security buy-in, it's no one is actually like opposed to security. Like they're opposed to maybe them being tasked with the work, or they're opposed to like having their routines disturbed. But at the end of the day, like no one is like, oh, I really wish there were more viruses going out with Python. So, just kind of like continually reminding people that the goal is to produce like a code base and a package index that has stuff that is a joy to use and doesn't like break people's computers or exploit their, systems and stuff like that. And everyone's like, yeah, okay, I guess I also do want that.
Well, yeah, there's a very human face on this as well that I think we kind of forget a lot of the time as people that are kind of just working with, the crates, the code, the tooling. I try and remind the community when we're talking about security, and I'm getting a kind of sentiment thrown back at me. It's like it's not security for security's sake. We're not asking you to do this because we want to make your lives difficult. Remember that this benefits you as much as it benefits me in real life, in big world. Secure code, good tooling, things that are useful to developers and make security a joy. They help my old dad, when he's getting bamboozled on his phone, like not have bugs in it or whatever. There's a human outcome here that I think a lot of people lose sight of. So it's reminding everyone that we're in it together in that way as well, that this is a kind of big world thing, not just, oh, I'm trying to inconvenience your code right now.
Exactly. So the consensus building route takes a lot longer. Like if I just got to tell everybody what to do, we would, get a lot done a lot faster, but that's not how it works in community. And I think also reminding people, if we're providing something that is open source, that is freely available for anyone, like if you you're providing something to the world, it should be good. Like if people deserve like open source code, they deserve it to not be riddled with bugs and viruses. So.
Yeah, and part of the consensus building process is making sure that people feel heard, not just you don't have to agree on everything. You don't have to take every suggestion. In fact, it would be impossible to do so and actually get anything done. But emphasizing, okay, I hear you. I hear that point you make. We probably won't use it because X, Y, and Z. It goes a long way towards that consensus building and the good feeling and goodwill that people will have for a solution, regardless of whether it includes their particular gripe or their particular solution.
Yeah. So sustaining security work, because obviously security is not one of those things you just do and then next year you can work on something else. It would be so nice. I have a lot of things we could work on next year, but we owe people better. So here are some of the things that Russ has been able to do over the last year.
Yeah, so over the last 2 years, we've been able to design and implement PKICA and resilient core model for implementation. We've developed provenance tracking. We've developed a couple of different open source projects to help with security. So automated call graph tool, Typomania, which reduces typo squatting. We've developed a complete set of threat models for the REST ecosystem. I'm going to do a shameful plug right now. We just published our 6-month technology report last week, which is available online on the REST Foundation website. I encourage you to go and read that because, this is just security stuff, but we've got oodles of good stuff going on kind of across the ecosystem, interop, specification work, all of that kind of stuff. So please go and have a look at that. It's displays all sorts of good work.
Amazing. So over the last year and a half, Python has become a CV. We don't have to, I guess, expand that anymore if Crow is correct. You just know what that is. Because the CVE itself is part of CNA, which is another acronym. So anyway, instead of people coming to us on X or LinkedIn or just complaining on Hacker News about bugs, they can come over here and tell us about vulnerabilities, and they don't have to repeat ones that have already been reported. We published a guide to becoming a CNA for other communities to use, and I'll share that a little bit later. We have reproducible builds for CPython source tarballs, And we now have a software bill of materials for CPython. So that will be forever, and every release of Python going forward will have an SBOM. So, lots of exciting stuff. It's funny on the typo squatting, we're also doing a lot of work on the back end on that, like namespace typo squatting. If that is important to you, now's a great time to get involved in that conversation, because wow, is there a lot in there. On the topic of sustainability, funding, and I would say for us, especially, the multi-year commitments are amazing. And then, so we don't have to come back over and over again, but we do love talking to stakeholders about how they're using Python, how the security work is making things better for them, we hope, or you can also tell if it's us if it's not, so we can try to fix it. The security is one of those things that it's a very specific expertise that deserves to get paid at a decent rate. It is not my niece took a computer science class, maybe she could do it for us for free. I'm looking at you, restaurant websites. So it requires a different kind of commitment to make sure that it is being done by someone who knows what they're doing and is following the current standards and state of the art.
And I think we have demonstrated at Python and at Rust and a lot of the other Alpha Omega grantees that we can do security, very economically. What we pay to do really excellent security work for the entire ecosystem is much better value for money than one of the big tech giants just hiring a security engineer and all of the salary and additional costs and everything else that goes with it. You get a lot of bang for your buck when you're funding security work at the foundation level, because we are nonprofits and we're just here for the benefit of everyone. There's no arms around the homework. There's none of that. Or we, you
need less money then?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're just going to produce more for the money you give us. But it's not a one-time thing. As Deb said, the multi-year commitments are incredibly useful for us, because I like to be able to tell my staff that they will have a job next year. Not always kind of say, well, I'm pretty sure you've got a job next year, but I still need to go and run around trying to kind of make the numbers work by December. That's not a nice, secure place to be working in. It's nice to know that, okay, well, I've got funding for X number of years. I'll be okay. Call out to Fastly here for their Fast Forward program, 5-year funding commitment. We like that.
The other piece of this, I would say, interorganizational collaboration. It's why we're here together today. We move faster when we share our ideas and our best practices. And I think it's in our interest to, keep collaborating on security topics. And I think it's good for consumers of open source also to have a consistent-ish experience across the different ecosystems that they use, as opposed to needlessly naming everything different or drawing a line on what is an SBOM anyway, in a completely random different place. So that kind of collaboration I think is really important. We have both of our orgs are also working with the Eclipse working group that is coalescing around security norms that can be used across the ecosystem. If you're not already part of that and you would like to be, please get in touch with either Beck or I, or with the working group if you want to go direct to the source.
You don't have to come through us.
Or Mika right here.
Or Mika, who's right here in a red shirt. I'm sure he'll last through lunch, so no worries. And then in that spirit of collaboration, here are a couple of resources for open source projects and organizations. The article on becoming a CNA, that's on GitHub. Vulnerability and disclosure management. This one has been around for a little bit, but it's a really good guide to kind of figure out how to start to approach that topic. And then OpenSSF also has a free course on developing secure software. So that's it's got a background on that. So if you're just getting started, it can be really daunting.
Super daunting. But also if these are kind of too finished for you, if you just have some questions, get in touch, right?
Absolutely.
We like talking to people.
Thank you.
Thank you.